This is Infopreneur World. Here are the 10 most expensive books in the world. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Let's get started. 10. The Canterbury Tales. Original price, $7.5 million. It was sold in 1998. Now worth $12 million. Why the Canterbury Tales is so expensive. An extremely rare 1477 first edition of Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales sold for $7.5 million in 1998 to the highest bidder, the late British billionaire and philanthropist John Paul Getty Jr. There is only a dozen known copies of the first edition in existence. The 9th most expensive book is the Gutenberg Bible. Original price, $5.4 million. Sold in 1987. The price now is $12.43 million. The question now is, why the Gutenberg Bible is so expensive? The Gutenberg Bible was the first complete book to be printed from movable type in 1455 and, as such, was one of the books that changed the world. Understandably, this book has a hefty price tag. Since there was no Gutenberg Bible in Japan in 1987, the Maruzen Company, a Japanese bookseller, purchased an incomplete copy for $5.4 million. There are 49 Gutenberg Bibles known to exist, but only 21 are complete. You can flip through one of them at the University of Texas at Austin. Number 8. Birds of America. Original price, $11.5 million. Year sold, 2010. Inflation adjusted price, $13.8 million. Why Birds of America is so expensive. Copies of John James Audubon's beautifully illustrated, awe-inspiring 4-volume set, Birds of America have fetched millions of dollars several times. In 2000, a Qatari prince and art collector purchased one for $8.8 million, $13.4 million today. Another copy sold for $5 million in 2005, $6.7 million today, and in 2010, the highest bid went for $11.5 million, $13.8 million today. In 2012, another full edition Birds of America sold for $7.9 million, $9 million today, and in 2018, another copy sold for $9.6 million, $10 million today. Adjusted for inflation, these copies of Birds of America have sold for over $51 million. 7. The Rothschild Prayer Book. Original price, $13.6 million. Year sold, 2014. Inflation adjusted price, $15.3 million. Why the Rothschild Prayer Book is so expensive. The Rothschild Prayer Book is a 16th century Flemish illuminated manuscript filled with incredible paintings by master Renaissance miniaturists and lined with gold. The book takes its name from the wealthy Rothschild family, who acquired the book sometime after 1868. It's unknown where it had been in the prior 350 years. In 1938, the book was stolen by the Nazis. 4 years later, Hitler gave it to the National Library in Vienna. Incredibly, the library refused to return it to the Rothschilds. It wasn't until 1999 that the book would be returned to its rightful owners. The Rothschild Prayer Book first sold to an anonymous bidder in 1999 for $13.38 million, $21.5 million adjusted for inflation today. It sold again in 2014 to billionaire Australian businessman Kerry Stokes for $13.6 million, $15.3 million adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation, the value of the book has decreased by $6 million between sales. 6. Basom Book. Original price, $14.2 million. Year sold, 2013. Inflation adjusted price, $15.94 million. Why Basom Book is so expensive. Printed in 1650, 20 years after settlers landed at Plymouth Rock, the Basom Book was the first book printed in British North America. In 1947, A copy of the Basom book. There are 11 copies known to exist. Broke world records when a copy of it sold at auction for $151,000, about $1.8 million today. In 2013, it sold again at auction, this time for much more. Billionaire American businessman David Rubenstein purchased it for $14 million. He has since loaned it out to various libraries. Number 5. St. Cuthbert Gospel. Original price, $14 million. Year old, 2012. Inflation adjusted price, $15.95 million. Why is the book so expensive? The earliest intact European book was purchased by the British Library in London in 2012 for $14 million after a successful fundraising effort. The Gospel was buried with its owner and writer, St. Cuthbert, who died in 687. The book is in remarkably good condition and still retains its binding and beautiful red cover, despite being 1,300 years old. The Gospel was unearthed in 1104 when Cuthbert's remains were being moved from a grave to a shrine for a while. It was used as a protective talisman from time to time. By the early 17th century, the book was owned privately until it was donated to a Jesuit community in Belgium, where it remained for 250 years. You can check out the book at the British Library's online digitized manuscripts database. Number 4. The Magna Carta. Original price, $21.3 million. It was sold in year 2007. It is now worth $26.9 million. Why the Magna Carta is so expensive? A copy of the Magna Carta was on the auction block, and not in a museum, in 2007. The billionaire co-founder of the Carlyle Group, David Rubenstein, alarmed that the historic, but not quite priceless, manuscript would end up with an owner overseas, decided to plunk down a $19 million bid for the copy, including fees and commissions. The final cost was $21.3 million. Rubenstein, who also uses his $2.8 billion net worth for philanthropic efforts, put the Magna Carta back into the National Archives. It's unknown precisely how many copies of the Magna Carta were made, but it's estimated there were maybe 250 copies. In 2015, an original copy of the Magna Carta was found in an old scrapbook in a British coastal town. It's speculated to be worth about $15 million, but it hasn't been put up for sale yet. The third most expensive book is Gospels of Henry the Lion. Original price, $11.7 million. Year sold, 1983. Inflation adjusted price, $30.73 million. Why the Gospels of Henry the Lion are so expensive? The Gospels of Henry the Lion is an illuminated Romanesque book that was published sometime during the late 12th century and sold for $11.7 million in 1983. It was the most expensive book in the world for quite some time. King Henry the Lion was a crucial figure in founding Germany, and the bidders, which included the German federal government and private donors, pooled their money together to bring this book home. It is only displayed 6 weeks per year in the Herzog August Library in Wolfenbüttel. At number 2 is the Book of Mormon Printer's Manuscript. Original price, $35 million. Year sold, 2017. Inflation adjusted price, $37.35 million. Why the Book of Mormon is so expensive? The Mormons have almost enough money to rival Bill Gates. The Church of Latter-day Saints is worth at least $40 billion, and they also aren't afraid to spend big money on books. According to the LDS Church, this 1830 handwritten manuscript is a copy of the one that Joseph Smith, founder of Mormonism, dictated to his scribes. It is also the manuscript used to typeset the original Book of Mormon. In 2017, the book was sold to the LDS Church by the Community of Christ, which had owned it for 114 years. Now to the most expensive book in the world. Codex Leicester. Original price, $30.8 million. It was sold in 1994. Inflation adjusted price, $54.4 million. Why Codex Leicester is the most expensive book in the world? Leonardo da Vinci's Codex Leicester, also known as the Codex Hammer, is the most expensive book ever sold. The 72-page linen manuscript includes Leonardo's thoughts, theories, and observations of the world, like the movement of water, fossils and the luminosity of the moon. In 1980, industrialist Armand Hammer purchased the Codex for $5.8 million, about $18.4 million today. It then sold for $30.8 million in 1994 to Bill Gates, who was not yet the richest person in the world, although he was certainly wealthy. After buying the Codex, Gates had it digitally scanned, then released some images as screensavers and wallpapers for Windows 98 Plus. What a journey for a book written in 1510. And there you have it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to leave a comment, like, share and subscribe to this channel. You can also turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever we drop a new video. Bye for now.